everybody. Welcome to the HDPhotoHub webinar. Appreciate you guys out there joining us today. We'll go over just a couple quick housekeeping things and some intros while we're on the call. So thank you guys for joining. With us today, we've got Herb Dierks and Shay Murray, and we'll give them a quick second for an intro here. A couple of quick housekeeping things. Down at the bottom in Zoom, you should see a spot to be able to ask questions. You'll see the Q&A spot. We've got Shay running point on that for us today, jumping in and answering any questions he can along the way. And then we're also going to have a Q&A section at the end. So if there's some questions in there that we feel like we'd rather just address and kind of speak to and get more in depth in the answers, then we'll save those ones for some time at the end. So I guess without further ado, just a quick little bit of background for me. For those of you that may not know me, I'm the CEO of HDPhotoHub. Been in the industry for around 14 years at HDPhotoHub since the very early days in 2019. Shay, do you want to give us a quick intro on yourself?
Yep.
Surprise.
Lost my mute button there. I'm Shay. Looking at the attendee list, I think I've worked with a lot of you guys in here already, but I do a lot of the account setup, onboarding, getting you guys configured in HDPhotoHub. But yeah, as Ian mentioned, I'll be running the Q&A session today.
Yeah, thank you, Shay. Herb, our CEO and founder. How about a quick background on you, sir?
Sure. So I actually first started in this industry back in 1997. And by this industry, I mean specifically building technology for real estate photographers to use to help market homes. So never been a photographer. Have tremendous respect for photographers, but never done it myself. I really come to this project from the perspective of somebody who loves technology and business and have took an interest in those things at a very young age. But I come at it from a very technology-based background, and I think we'll get into a lot more as we go into this, but really have a passion for helping entrepreneurs grow their own business and thrive. So,
yeah, all right, thanks, Herb. So a little bit of a different webinar format today. Usually we're kind of diving into some features, or we'll be talking about something new that rolled out, or we might be doing a recap of doing some more advanced things of the functionality that we have in the system. Today, there's been a lot of exciting news in the industry lately, and we just kind of felt like we wanted to take an opportunity to let everybody kind of know and hear from our owner on kind of some of the thoughts and what's going on and what are the things that we're keeping in on. Herb, do you want to elaborate on that any more? Why are we here today? Why are we gathered? What are we talking about?
Yeah, I think one of the things that there's been some news in the space. We'll get into that too. But one of the things that has kind of been surprising to me, and I think is noteworthy, is the amount of conversation on social media about the companies that are helping real estate photography businesses run. And we've talk a lot internally here about sort of what our mission is and about what our core values are and what we're aiming at and what we're looking to accomplish. And we haven't really done that publicly. We haven't shared that with our users. And I thought, this would be a good time for us to do that, to just be really open and transparent about who we are, what we're about, and what drives us, what is it that makes us excited to get out of bed every morning and do what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a fun one getting into that. It's for many folks out there, maybe the first time kind of meeting you or kind of hearing you talk. So I think it's pretty exciting to have you joining and hosting this and wanting to do it and just wanting to be out in touch with everybody and all the customers and people in the industry. So let's kick it off. We're gonna jump straight to the big news, right? So Zillow acquired Aereo. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, Herb? I know obviously we've him and I have talked about this. We've talked about it internally, like he said. But really, today we're going to try to have kind of a conversational format just to kind of be natural and let people kind of know what's going on behind the scenes and what we're thinking about. So, what do you think of this acquisition, Herb? The heck? Why did Zillow buy Aereo?
Well, it's fascinating, and I think there's a lot of room for speculation, for guessing, but truth is there's a lot we don't know. And so I think it's always a mistake to try to go too far down the road of motive attribution, of trying to make an assumption and then guess what people are motivated by. So I think it's wise for us to sort of stay at a high level when we talk about this. And so I think, one of the things that I've spent a lot of time thinking about is, why do companies do acquisitions? Why did they acquire? Why does one company acquire another? And there's a few common reasons for that. One of the reasons is to acquire the revenue stream for another company. So it could be a situation where somebody just wants to buy a business because they like the money that it's making and they want to add it to their portfolio. I actually don't think that's what Zillow had in mind with the acquisition of Aereo.
Why?
Yeah, so they had Aereo did a few rounds of fundraising. One of them was less than a year ago that it closed, and it was a seed round, not a Series A. So they were still in the sort of figuring out what we want to be when we grow up phase of their maturity cycle. And so my guess is that they're that they weren't yet to a place where they were saying, yes, we've definitely figured out and unlocked our product market fit perfectly. Maybe they did, but usually when you're that close to a seed round, you're still kind of feeling around in the dark a little bit in the early stages of a business. And so it's usually a more matured business, a business that has done a lot of growth and has already sort of topped off the amount of growth that they're going to do. And that's usually when somebody would acquire for that type of purpose. So another reason is strategic. There might be a strategic synergy, and maybe that's the case with this case as well. Zillow does appear to like to have their fingers in a lot of aspects of the real estate transaction life cycle, and this is one where they haven't yet. So that could be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, they had their certified photographer program, but as a lot of the photographers know, it didn't really take off, and that was quite a while ago. And they've kind of toyed with offering other, kind of photographer-specific products and things in the past, and like enhancements for the agents that they're working with. But it seems like right now that stuff really stuck. They're kind of moving around. I mean, continuing to make progress on their 3D home stuff, but as far as like working directly with photographers, this is sort of a big step for them. Yeah.
Well, it is, although I think it bears mentioning that they acquired a photography business around the first of this year. So this is really the second step into this space.
Right.
And this is a little different, which is kind of interesting. I think because if you have an in-house photography company and you're hosting data for other photography companies, feels like a little bit of a gray area or a danger zone in terms of conflict of interest, right? So if you're the company that is hosting data for your competitors, that seems like a liability. I mean, I'm sure they have strict policies around that, but it's not awesome. Like I don't know what they're going to do with that or how they're going to deal with that.
Yeah, right. And everybody kind of knows what the terms of use there have been leading up to this, and that they're saying good for them that they're going to keep that in place and continue moving on. That's what's happening today. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? And we don't even know. Maybe that wasn't why Zillow was trying to acquire Aereo. What are some of the other reasons that larger companies do things like this?
Yeah, I think there's also opportunity. So there could be other aspects that they're trying to acquire besides the customers. It could be the data. So one idea that I've heard bantied about is being able to access the library of images, right? So all the photos and videos and other media that have been acquired by photographers, stored in the platform. One of the ideas of what they could do with that is using it to feed an AI algorithm of some kind. I think that's interesting. Maybe that's something on there. Zillow has a history of liking to experiment, right? They play, and I think that's good for a business to do that, to try things out and see how they go. And it does seem like Zillow does that maybe more than most. Their Zillow offers and some of the other projects. They've got lots of projects that they've worked on the side. Photographer directory was one that they spooled up, made real big, and then shut down. So they do a certain amount of that experimentation. So maybe accessing the images for that, or at one point Zillow had a website called Zillow Digs, where they had a place where people could go look at photos for interior design ideas and just other things, not homes for sale. And actually got into a little bit of a legal kerfuffle over that with VHT, because they were using images that were outside of the scope of the license of the use of those images. And so it may be that they're looking to reboot that. They're looking for a database of images. I don't know, right? Like we don't really know what they're doing, but there's a lot of interesting possibilities about what they could be thinking. I don't know. I don't know if I don't know how the industry is going to feel about that. I don't know how other people are going to feel about their images, their data potentially being used, data mined for things, either explicitly or in aggregate.
Yeah, for sure. From some of the social media reaction, and there's a typical social media style. Maybe you get a little bit more negative than the positive or the people that are excited. But it sure was a little bit of a deal out there in the Facebook groups with photography businesses, and it was certainly a buzz. There's been plenty of people putting up content, kind of speaking about this, and doing kind of what we're doing today, doing a little bit of speculation on why this is happening, and then giving their take on what's it going to mean for them. It seems at least like, yeah, there's some users out there that are maybe scared about that whole conflict of interest situation, and that's kind of a tough spot to be in when you're out and you're wanting to compete. And
yeah, I think the in a certain sense, I think that they've got to have some tight boundaries around the data so that it's not misused. But at the same time, it's like, even if the likelihood of something happening is really low, the catastrophic nature, if it did happen where that data was used in an inappropriate way, would be a really big deal. So I think even if the likelihood is low, the risk is still relatively high because of just how bad the damage could be. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's really high. It's all speculation. So I think.
Yeah, right. We don't know. At the end of the day, the only people that really know, why did Zillow buy Aerial are the leaders and the people that were pushing that through at Zillow, and maybe some of the Aerial leadership, maybe not. It's hard to say in those acquisitions if the full plans are revealed beforehand, but oftentimes not.
Yeah, I think it's also just kind of, as we kind of move out of the specifics of this and into some other impacts, I think one of the things that's important to keep in mind is that right now the real estate industry is in a downturn, right? And when it's in a low time, that's when consolidation happens. It happens all across the board. It's because like, let's be honest, in a cold winter, that's where all the bugs all the bugs die, right? Like you have to be a hardy business to survive a downturn, and companies that are a little on the that are running cash tight can be good targets for acquisitions, and so you see a lot of that type of activity in a downturn.
Yeah. So what do you think it means for the industry, for those photography businesses out there that, but let's go kind of broad on this first one, ones that are both using us and maybe using other platforms. What do you mean? What do you think it means for the industry holistically?
Well, I don't know. I mean, in a certain sense, there's always a certain amount of change. I think, for people that are using the aerial platform, I think that there's a certain amount of questions that they may be having, but I think it's important for business owners to be very deliberate and not reactive, right? To think long term about what they want to, who they want to partner with, how they want to position themselves, and to not be too emotionally responsive, because you really want to be. There's a bigger picture, right? And you want to not overreact in those type of cases. I do think that as it relates to real estate photography, this has caused a lot of people to ask the question about who is a good partner and what makes a good partner, and is my data in a safe place or is it not? Or I think those are important questions. I also think it bears mentioning one of the perspectives that I like to spend a lot of time thinking about things from is there's kind of two modes of operation that I've observed businesses operate in categorically, two ways that you can maybe sort most businesses. One of them is very transactionally thinking. They're just thinking about close the sale, get the sale, move to the next thing. And there's relational, people who are looking to build a relationship with their clients and are looking to invest in their clients. And those two worldviews definitely take you down very different pathways, right? And so I think when you look at real estate agents, they are very relational, right? They very much have the expectation that they need to build rapport with their sphere of influence, the people that sell with them, that list with them, and their friends and family. They have to focus on relationships. They're not just in and out. They're in it for the long haul, most of the time, right? The best agents, the most successful ones.
Yeah, right. The people that they're working with, the people that they've worked with in the past, they don't do transactions every month, right? They're doing transactions maybe once every few years of moving or selling a house or moving on, outside of maybe some investment companies and things that they work with. So absolutely, that it's such a key point that, right, the sort of the big box store approach or the approach of really just very transactional, like you said, like let's get the sale, let's move on, next piece, who's our next target, where are our goals, is so different than more of like a boutique company of coming in and working with a real estate agent and finding out what do they like to do in their marketing, how are they trying to grow their business, and really getting down to that deeper level. And the agents just appreciate that, right? I mean, it's how they treat their customers, and therefore it's how they want to be treated, and we definitely see that.
It's so
out,
true, right? And so that just rolls all the way downhill, right? So agents expect to interact with their customers that way, therefore they expect photographers to treat them in that way. And I mean, I think just from the people that we've interacted with over the years, it's really obvious that the ones that have the best businesses that are growing the most are the ones that get that and embrace it and lean in to that relationship. And as a consequence, real estate photographers that lean into that relationship side of business also want to partner with a company that does as well, which is why that's kind of baked in at the core of our company. It's why customer service is such an important part of what we do, and why we have internal commitments to always have humans answering the phone, always have people that are that speak English to serve English speaking customers. We try to keep our response time really tight, and we try to be available in all the mediums that people want to communicate in, whether that's chat, text, phone, email, whatever, because we have to do that to do a good job of building relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So we've kind of talked about what it meant for the industry. What do you think it means, or what do you see? What have we talked about as what does it mean for our HDPhotoHub customers?
Well, I mean, in a certain sense, nothing, right? Because I mean, it's just business as usual for us over here. We're continuing to do what we do, which is build a product and a platform, really a service that is delivered through technology more than the technology itself, but a platform that helps serve our users, right? Serve our customers. And so just like we always do, we listen to the market very carefully. We listen to our users and use that to guide the direction that we'll go in terms of product development, in terms of company direction, all of that stuff. So
yeah, right. I mean, it's the same, like you said, same old here. We're our team is already scaled up, ready, for going through and planning what projects and features we're adding and onboarding new people. It's the normal stuff that we've been doing since day one.
Yeah, I think it bears
refreshing.
mentioning here too that one of the questions that we got a lot in social media and through email and through chat after the Aereo acquisition was, are you guys going to be next, or is HDPhotoHub the next company to get acquired either by Zillow or by somebody else? And we actually had already recorded a video that we were going to send out, and it just so happened that was ready to go, so we were able to turn that around really quickly. But the truth is that we really don't have any plans to. I don't have any plans to sell. So I think a couple data points that I think we've communicated, but I think this is a good spot to reiterate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that so number one, we have no investors invested in our company. We bootstrapped to build the company. We started from scratch. I mean, I started by myself as a single person and worked on it for quite a while before we had our very first customers, first paying users. The model of taking pardon me. So the model of taking investment capital is common, and it's especially common in software. And the reason it's common is because it's hard to build a software product. I mean, you think about other forms of business, like if you were going to be an attorney, you have to have the education, but once you have the knowledge, you basically just open a business. You can get an office, but as soon as you have a client, you've got revenue. If you're a photographer, you have to learn how to shoot, so there's some educational front-loaded time period. But once you have enough skill to actually shoot a home and you've got the equipment, as soon as you have a client, you have revenue. With software, you have to invest for a while. You have to build a lot of stuff. You have to create a lot of things, and you have to add a lot of functionality before you can have your very first customer. And so for that reason, most companies will actually go get an investor. They put together a pitch deck. Here's our idea. Go get an initial investment and hire some people, and then build a rough version of the website, and then go to market and start iterating. The other model that's common along the bootstrap side is people have a different business and they'll build some software for their own business and then later expand it to be available to other users. That's another approach. It's a little easier to pull off in the fact that you have sort of a separate business that's funding the creation, and you have some insight into the industry. The downside is that you build it around your one business, right? And one thing that we've learned in this space is that there is a wide range of methods that real estate photographers set their business up. It's shocking the diversity of configuration. I mean, it's enough that we had to hire a guy just to help people configure, right? That's what Shay does for us, to help people get that configuration set up. So I think if you build it around a single business, it can be in a way create a certain form of tunnel vision around your way of running your business. The other alternative, of course, is the investment path. Then you're staying generic. And in our case, we did something completely different. And maybe we probably don't have time to get into the whole backstory to that today, but we had kind of unique circumstances that set us up to be the best of both worlds. So because we don't have that investment, so what is wrong with an investor? Like, what's wrong with that? I think the problem with that is basically it's where are you getting the fuel to run your business, right? It takes cash to pay payroll, to host servers and all of that stuff. And when you're driven by investment, the hand that feeds you is the investor. And as a consequence, that's the constituency that you are focused on keeping happy. And in the very, very early days, that can be okay. They'll leave you alone and let you build a product. But once you launch and you start getting out into the marketplace and you start that process of trying to transition from investment capital to revenue from users, from customers, it's sometimes hard to shake that habit. And especially when you haven't got enough customers yet. So if you ever have to make a decision about who do we want to, whose interests do we serve? Is it customers or is it investors? If you're still receiving a significant amount of the money you pay payroll with from investors, then you care about investors, right? And you're gonna be focused on what they want delivered. And that, I think, can lead to something like selling your company. When you have a bunch of investors and they want their money back out. To be honest with you, I've seen it in 2001 timeframe. I worked in Seattle for a short period of time during the .com gold rush. Of course, Silicon Valley was the main epicenter of that phenomenon, but Seattle was an echo area. And I saw, and it kind of, frankly, it disappointed me how companies that were too investor focused got a lot of money, didn't have a lot of respect for that money, and had a tendency to spend it in an irresponsible way. And I don't know, it just forms bad habits. So that's always been something that I've found unappealing. So I think that staying focused on serving the interests of customers matters a lot.
Yeah, right.
Matters a good deal.
When at the bottom line, the people that you answer to, and you talked about fuel coming from whether it's investors or customers, when 100% of your fuel is coming from customers, you get the great option of making sure that you're always making the choices that are going to delight your customers, and being able to do things that help enhance them and help make them more successful, and then in turn it feeds back to more customers, and then you become more successful. It's once you can get that past that hump, right? It's a hard road early on when you're doing that, but once you're past it, it's a much more comfortable place to be. At least that's what I see from my eyes. And when Herb and I get to kind of talk through different decisions that are having impact, at the end of the day, we're saying, what is this going to do? What will this do to our customers? What are these people thinking? What's going to happen? How does it impact them? And let's make sure it's good for them.
Yeah, it also creates alignment, right?
Yeah.
And so with that, starting with that as an essential root, essential basis, everything that we did was that, right? Everything in our pricing is set up so that we every day all day. All we focus on is how can we help our users get more orders? How can we help them be more efficient? How can we help them win in the marketplace? How can we help the people that use our platform who have entrusted us with it's not something we take lightly, the stewardship of being the hub for a business, but by attaching irrecoverably or inseparably our growth and success with that of our customers, I think that creates this sort of radical form of alignment that's a win-win, right?
Yeah.
Creates a virtuous cycle.
Yeah, it's a beauty of the per property pricing versus subscription, right? We're successful when they're successful. I think too, that hybrid.
One other quick thing on that
go ahead.
is that it's also always a clue of when you're looking for subscription revenue, that MMR concept of monthly revenue, that is what investors are always looking for. And so like that's a clue of an investor prioritized perspective, is how do we get more subscribers, more monthly subscribers? That's what internet-based software investors are all looking for. And it's that, I think, is a perfect example, right, of not being aligned, of us choosing not to do that approach, the approach that investors would want, because we want to be aligned with our user base.
Yeah. And you kind of mentioned the hybrid approach of how some of these companies get started, where they're building a system for their own company. That's great. And they're probably building it because they feel like they want to grow that company more, and they feel like there's some holes. So at what point, when you have that platform now, is it sort of a similar situation like we were talking about earlier, where, okay, now you own a national photography company or a company that aspires to be a national photography company? At what point is that a conflict of interest inside of your platform? Not to mention the shortcomings of building it for your workflow. And we were lucky enough to have the liberty of some insight before we started building, to know that there's lots of different ways to run a photography company and lots of different approaches to be able to go through and do that, and for people to be successful with different approaches. And it's awesome that we were able to start there.
I think that bears highlighting too, in like the fact that we don't. So now, number one, we don't also run a photography company, and we never will. That's a conflict of interest, and we won't put ourselves in a position where we have a conflict of interest with another business unit that is a competitor to any of our users. Won't do it. So number two, similarly, is we don't work with real estate agents, right?
Right, not directly, right?
We won't. I mean, it's related to that, but it's like we just, anything that is that puts alignment with our users in question, we just won't do it. And I think that having that clarity is so liberating, but it closes a lot of doors, right? Like there's a lot of temptation to say, oh, why don't you offer your platform for real estate agents? They could upload, and no, we're not doing that, because we support real estate photographers. There's no reason at all for a real estate agent to take their own photos. Not now. Not in 2023. There frankly wasn't in 2022, 21, 2020. Hire a professional. Like if you're a real estate agent and you're trying to grow your real estate business, you have to hire a professional photographer if you want to be regarded as somebody who is a pro. And so like, I just do not understand why you would go in the direction. Like, why would we offer services to real estate agents? That's ridiculous. That's right. That puts them in conflict with photographers, and the result's not going to be good of the photos. Don't do it.
Yeah, right. They're not out there cleaning their own properties, right? Before they list that they're hiring a cleaning company. Like, let the pros handle the pro stuff. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about the health of new listings, right? New listings is kind of the bread and butter for real estate photography companies, whether it's a house going up for sale or about to be listed, or new construction. So we keep a close eye on this because obviously, as we mentioned, it is near and dear to us. The number of properties out and going through that you guys are able to shoot, that in turn comes and makes us successful as well. Something that we do and we look at. So Realtor.com actually has a great data source that they share. And they break it down a couple different ways. So they share it nationwide. They share it by major metros. We're gonna put a URL to the data point out when we send out the recording, but it's the Realtor.com data. And what they've been seeing nationwide so far this year is it's like kind of hovering around about 25% down from last year. I'm rounding a bit there. I've at some months it's been up to like 27, 28. Other months it's down in like the 19s. But up and down. So year over year so far. However, that's starting to shift a little bit as you compare that to last year. I think I just saw they usually put out like a little weekly report too, and kind of just look at how are the weeks progressing before they put out the monthly data that they release. This week was one of the better ones that I've seen in quite a while. It was only down, I think, just under 6% year over year. So looking at last week compared to the same week last year. That's the lowest I've seen in quite a while. And the last 2 weeks have been trending that way. And really that's because we're coming back to the same point in time last year where the impact of the interest rates going up was starting to be felt in the market, where people started to slow and go, ooh, actually, I'm going to have a hard time buying a house because the interest rates are so high that my payment's going to be worse than it is. It's been interesting. I get the opportunity to talk to a lot of different business owners, either that are using our platform or inquiring about using our platform, and just kind of talking with them and saying, how's the market in your area? We see it nationwide. That's what we typically look at. Every now and then we might drill into a major metro, but for the most part, we're kind of looking holistically. And it's been fascinating. Most markets are seeing, what we're seeing nationwide, to where they're down. The overall listing count is down. A lot of those people, have still at least been able to maintain steady or have grown the offering. COVID was a great sort of catalyst to getting people more interested in like walkthrough videos and Matterports and things like that. So they've been able to get their average order value up, which is awesome, to be able to help kind of maintain their revenue levels, with less shoots coming in. Herb, overall, and as we kind of look forward, we know that as we compare things to last year, because we're finally getting to more of an apples to apples comparison with the interest rates of how they are, that it's going to feel like it's kind of leveling off some, feel a little bit better. But with some of the more economics that you're looking at and the sources that we're paying attention to say, all right, as we're planning as a company for, not only what's going to happen for the rest of this year, what are our projections for the year after? What are our projections for the year after? What are you hearing from some of the different economists that you kind of keep tabs on and listen to and kind of give as much trust as you can, I guess, to those guys that are predicting the future? It's a bit like weathermen, but what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting, right? Because like you said, it varies from market to market so much. If you were to ask what's the average temperature in the United States, that tells you very little about what the weather's like outside your window. But I think it's still instructive in terms of like the overall trends that we can expect. Some markets have more headwinds than others, but as far as economics go, I like following ITR Economics. They've got a good YouTube channel. They have a video they put out every week called Fed Watch. We can include a link to that when we send out the follow up. Also, they have a pretty interesting method that they use for tracking trends. They look at a bunch of different sectors, and for real estate, particularly for the resale market, one of the things that they're noticing is that just in the last couple of weeks, we had our first. They do the approach that they use is looking at a 3/12 comparison, the last 3 months compared to the last 12 months, and they look at not just the direction that things are going, but how is it changing in its pitch. And so they've identified that we now have reached the point in which the downturn has stopped going further down, like stopped accelerating down and has started to pull up. So the plane is still facing down, but it's starting to tip up, right? And so they're projecting, based upon their models, that we'll see the worst of it this fourth quarter of 2023, and 2024 will be still a down market, but it will be slowly rising. So the expectations that they're putting out there are, expect next year to also be slow, similar to this year, but slow incremental climb back out. Not bouncing back. It's not a hard bounce. It's a slow increase. And so they're looking further out. 2024 will be a slow increase. 25, 26, 27, 28 should all be good. 28, it's going to start heading down again. There's a bunch of other economic factors. Of course, interest rates are a big part of that. They are expecting at least one more quarter of a point increase in interest rates, which always has a cooling effect. They think that'll happen either in September or November when the Fed meets to make those decisions. So I mean, it's been a hard year, right? Like, it's been tough. It's been tough out there with the number of listings being down. But it's important also to think about that in terms of it's more competitive. There's fewer listings going around, so there's less work. But when the resources are scarce, competition becomes more fierce. And I think that's what we're seeing, which we'll cover more a little bit when we get into some of our specific trends.
Yeah, I think that let's jump into that a little bit. I don't know if this one's on the radar for your stats, so I'm going to throw it out there just from the Realtor.com stats real quick. We're just a smidge behind pace, so we'll try to pick it up just a little to make sure we get to some Q&A and end on time. But right, the time on market. Yeah, go ahead, Shay.
Right. Most people have found looks like the Q&A button at the bottom, but if you guys have any questions for Herb, Ian, or just HDPhotoHub in general, click on the Q&A, shoot them over, and then we'll answer them at the end.
Perfect. Thank you, Shay.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing along with some of those Realtor.com stats, we don't only just pay attention to the new listings, but we're looking at time on market too. And right, as the interest rates go up, and as as sellers still want to get top dollar, and as buyers really feel that pain in their wallet when they start taking the calculations with the interest on what their payments are going to be, the time on market's it's slowing. So houses are staying on the market longer, which in turn really leads into agents needing to be more proactive about how are they promoting that listing, how are they keeping their homeowners that's waiting for that house to sell, right? It's a major event, selling a house. How are they keeping them happy during this time where things are on the market a little bit longer? The HDPhotoHub marketing kit is a great spot for that. I think the thing that I like to lean into too on that is, not only is it good for promoting that current listing, like that's great, an agent gets paid when they sell that house, but the best agents that are out there, they're not thinking about selling their current inventory that they have listing. They want to know, where is their next inventory coming from, especially in a market like this where it's down. Where are they going to get that next listing? And when people go and look up, what's the realtor that they want to work with, especially as housing prices keep rising. I know we're in sort of a small market in Spokane, Washington, and the number of $1 million houses that we see now compared to what we used to see is staggering. And you kind of look around and go, well, that's not really $1 million house. But the reality is property prices have increased so much to that point where there's a lot more listings that meet that $1 million threshold out there today. And people are looking, when they say, hey, this is going to be $1 million thing for me. I need to know that my agent knows what they're doing. I need to know that they're going to be out promoting it. So really, when the agent's putting those marketing kit materials out there into their social media and into their sphere of influence and promoting that listing, but themselves along with it, with their branded content, it's really just as much making a case for, being a great agent who has listings, who's proactive about selling it, so they can get their next listings. And it's such a big deal. All right, Herb, I think you got some stats for us, so I'll quit beating it up on the marketing kit and how awesome it is. But yeah, let's see. What do we got? What are you seeing as trends out there, just from some of the kind of numbers inside of our system?
Yeah, so I did some analysis where I looked at businesses that have been using our platform for since at least January of 2022, using it consistently, so that we can see, so that we have apples to apples comparisons. And we're looking at the revenue difference between January through mid-August of 2022 versus the same period of 2023. 43.8% of the businesses using our platform are shrinking, 56.2 are growing. So this is total revenue that we're basing this on. So so more than half are seeing an increase, which in a down market is pretty amazing, actually. So glad to see that. So here's where we get into some really fun stuff. If you divide the businesses between the ones that have growing revenue and the ones that have shrinking revenue, the number of agents that the growing companies are working with is up 40%. So they're working with way more agents, and I think that's I think what that demonstrates is that people that are in a growing position are hustling. They're out there getting in front of agents. They're not accepting the I don't know, that poisonous thought that the market's down, so everything's going to be down, so my business is going to be down. They're out there working and meeting new agents and growing their client base. So 40% up on the ones that are growing, 13.7% down on the ones that had a loss in total revenue last year. So a little bit of a reduction in the number of agents there. On the number of orders, that's up 52.7% with the growing businesses and down 10.1%. So a big increase on the number of orders, a slight reduction, a lesser reduction than the number of agents. So what I find fascinating about that is if you take those two numbers and mash them up, what you find is that the companies that are growing, in addition to growing the number of agents, they're also growing the number of orders per agent. And that's up 10.4%, where if you're in a business that's shrinking, there's a compounding effect. If you're losing some customers and the average number of orders is going down, then that's really having a pretty negative impact on the number of orders per agent. Now, the fourth one, which I think is super fascinating here, is that both have raised their prices. So both the growing businesses, those have an average order total amount that is 13.3% higher. So adding in some more add-ons, some more upsells, and even the companies that are shrinking are seeing an increase in the amount, the average ticket. So those numbers are both pointing up, and I think that's probably a good sign. I would say that indicates that agents are becoming more competitive, and as a result are more inclined to purchase some of those upsell add-on products like night shoots, like video, like 3D tours, like drone photography, and so I think that I think maybe one of the key takeaways here is that the companies that were growing didn't grow the number of agents by undercutting their price. They aren't cannibalizing the price that they're charging in order to accomplish that customer growth. They're keeping it strong. And I think one of the things that we see is that when a market is more competitive, the agents that are top producing agents have a tendency to get even more of the listings, because as you mentioned, Ian, that market time extending, people don't assume that just because a sign is going in the yard, their home's gonna sell right away. They want to get an agent that's going to be a top-notch agent. So those are going to be the best agents to have as customers, and they're going to be the ones that are probably going to spend a little more. They're also going to do a higher volume of orders, and so those are the agents that you want to have. One last slide on our internal stats here. This is month by month, looking at the adoption rate of video and of 3D tours, you can see that big jump that occurred when COVID happened, particularly in the 3D tour space. Huge spike. People were feeling nervous about going into homes in person, so that sort of 3D home product category just rocketed way up, and then it kind of came down, and it's a little bit on a decline, but it's still way higher than it was pre-COVID. What's interesting about video is that it continues to grow year after year, right? It's got a little bit more steady upward trajectory. So video products, I think, are an important an important thing to incorporate and to promote, because there is a market for it, and it seems to be growing. And one of the things that we've definitely seen in this space is that agents like to follow the leader. So if you've got a top agent who's buying video, probably a lot of the other agents are going to just follow suit. So
yeah, right. It's usually the leaders set the trend, right? You see that in many industries, and lots of people kind of emulating what maybe some of the people that are leading the industry are doing. I don't know, just throwing that out there. Seems like that's kind of commonplace. So and Herb, while we're in this kind of realm of really talking about like what are the things that we're talking about back behind the scenes, what are the things that we're keeping our eye on, AI has been just all over the place, right? ChatGPT came out and launched it, and Microsoft bought them and went more. Tell our listeners out there what we've been talking about internally on, what do we see AI, what do we think it's going to do in the industry? Maybe just really, really brief. I know that we want to jump to a couple questions and things here, but fire away.
Yeah, I think AI is interesting. It's a little buzzy right now. A lot of people are excited about it. I think there's a couple things. I think categorically, it's really these AI algorithms are really just large statistical models, and so it's they have a purpose and they can be helpful, but it's not really intelligence per se. It's more statistical trends, right? At the root of it, it certainly feels intelligent. It's amazing what some of the algorithms can do. But I think so there's a couple of things that I think that are more applicable to our industry that I think are worth pointing out. One of them is that AI is throwing some of the IP ownership stuff around photos into question. It's a bit of a gray area, because the way that AI often will work is it is incorporating what it has found as patterns for images from a massive database of other images, right? And so what you end up with is it pieces together things and blends things from perhaps thousands of images to recreate a portion of a photo, or extend it, or update it, or whatever. As a result of that,
or add like an extra finger to a hand or whatever, right?
Yeah, whatever people are doing, right? Like, but so at the end of the day, one of the things that is important to keep in mind, like if you look at the license agreement in Adobe Photoshop's AI, their beta feature, once you've run that, once you've applied the AI algorithm to your photo, you, number one, are not technically licensed to use it for commercial use. So that kind of puts a damper on things in this space. And the other thing about it is that you don't have the rights to claim ownership of your photo anymore. So I think that's a gray area that's gonna have to get sorted out. That is gonna, it's cool. I've seen people that take photos and like just ask an AI algorithm to take a shot of the garage and add some cars, or to do a sky replacement or whatever. But it does affect your copyright rights when you do that, and so that's something to be aware of. I think the other interesting use of AI is in image post processing, and not necessarily. Well, there's a lot of approaches, right? There are some companies just getting up and running that just do a 100% AI driven correction, where they do color balance and light correction, do maybe some straightening. And on those, if it's specific for real estate, I believe you can retain your copyright ownership, but you'll have to look at the terms on a service by service basis. But there are some that are fully AI driven, where you just feed an image, you get your image out, and that's it. But I think the more interesting use case is some of the post-processing editors are using AI to augment the work that their editors are doing to make them faster and more efficient, which I think is a pretty cool idea, right? Like, it's giving a power tool to somebody to help them be more efficient, but the human eye is still involved, and so then they can match your style, they can make sure that the colors stay true, and again, you have the opportunity to retain your copyright ownership. So I think that's an important thing to keep an eye on. But I think the effect of that when it comes to post-processing will probably be that the cost of post-processing will continue to come down, because the people that do embrace AI algorithms can get more efficiency.
Yeah, right. As those get better, and as the starting quality kind of bumps up a little bit, so that it's helpful, so that they can do more photos faster. Yeah, hopefully that will be returned as some maybe new people coming into the market that are able to do things at a lower price than existing people are able to do it.
I think before we move off the AI topic, I think one thing that we should just point out is that we're looking at it as a category, and I think that there's a couple of potential features that we've considered for releasing down the road, and so I don't want to jump on a fad just because, for the buzzwords, but I do
integrate with ChatGPT.
But I do think there's some potential uses, and I think it'll be fun to experiment with that. Like, I think we'll find ways. We'll probably be integrating with third parties, though, not developing stuff in-house, but extending our app integrations area to include some of those things. Because to be honest with you, I feel like it's a very unsettled space. I think there's going to be a lot of players putting things out there, a lot of innovation coming out from other companies, and I think our goal is to be the hub, right? To find a couple of top players and figure out ways to interact with them and integrate with them, and but we want those products to be at least somewhat mature, and I think we're close. We're not quite there, but we're close on some of those.
So we're nearing our time here, our hour. How about other things that we've seen out there? There's that new lawsuit that came up pretty recent on some agent commission structure. Kind of keeping an eye on that.
Yeah, I think we'll keep an eye on it. I mean, it doesn't affect us directly, other than the fact that anything disruptive to real estate has the potential to be disruptive. Nothing actionable at this point, but I think it's interesting. I mean, we do operate in a space that there's always something going on. There's always some new wrinkle, some new curveball coming in, and so we do what entrepreneurs do. We adapt and overcome. We do, our customers do. That's just how it is.
Yep, absolutely. Something to just kind of keep an eye on as things progress. Well, let's see. Shay, do you have any questions from the audience that you didn't kind of answer on the fly there that you wanted to just bring up and shout out?
Well, I'm going to be honest. You guys use this opportunity to fire a lot of off-topic questions my way, so thank you. Yeah, got a lot of cart configuration and random stuff in there, so I appreciate it. But like, relating to this meeting, I feel like all the questions that came my way, you guys pretty much covered. I had a couple. The last one we really already touched on. They were just asking HDPhotoHub planning on releasing any AI tools. Herbie already kind of covered that. We're kind of keeping an eye on it at this time. The other one I thought was kind of interesting. Will HDPhotoHub be attending PMRE this year?
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Right. Like we've been a sponsor of that event ever since it first got started, and have been proud to do so because it's a big deal. It's an important thing to support real estate photographers as a group. And I think, man, anyone that's listening in that hasn't been to a PMRE conference, it's a great thing to go to, because if you feel like you're a lone wolf out there, and nobody really understands what it's like to be you, come to PMRE and you'll find yourself in a room with a few hundred people that do the same thing all day long. And it's a feeling like no other to know you're among your people when you're that sort of lone warrior out there in your car and running around shooting all day. So yeah, for sure we continue to support PMRE. We'll be a sponsor. We'll be a premier sponsor again this year. And it'll be a fun time. We're even gonna have a session this year where we're gonna actually I'm just gonna moderate a few of our customers that are using our platform. Not really talking about our platform, but talking about the industry as a whole and how they grew their company. And so I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We've got some great people lined up for that, and it's always just a fun event down in Vegas. And well, I think we've got like 5 from our team coming down. If you guys are, those of you that haven't met Shay in person before, you can meet Shay down there. Herb will be around. I'll be
Come say hi.
around. Yeah, Nikki and Kevin. It's going to be a blast when we're down there. I'm really looking forward to it. Any other questions that we want to touch on or hit right before we wrap it up here, Shay?
That's all I had. You guys covered everything else.
Ooh, all right. Well, yeah, it was fun doing this. I think it's something that we're going to kind of continue to look to. Just check in every now and then on and kind of put something out where we're reaching out to our customers and saying, what's kind of going on behind the scenes, what's rattling around up in the noggins of everybody over there who's helping lead the direction of this company and making decisions for the business and things. So yeah, it's been a fun time. I think we'll just wrap it up and end it here. So thank you, Shay, for running questions and getting all those different configuration questions with that great intro that you got all over the place. Love it. Herb, thanks for spending some time and getting out here so that we can talk to our customers. It's so fun. Thank you guys both for being on here.
And thank you to our customers for supporting us and for helping us with ideas and for really just trusting us, because we wouldn't get to do this very fun thing unless you were there to serve. So
I know there's a fun quote that Herb said. I think back like a while ago when we were doing some recording sessions, and he said, nobody cares about your business more than you, but we come pretty close. And I feel that every day, man. It's a big deal being the hub and handling your orders, handling your deliveries. Those are very, very critical pieces to your business, and we have we understand, and we feel the pressure of that. We feel the stress, and that's why we invest back into the company and using the the systems that we do to make sure that we have the great uptime that we do, because we get it. Like, we know that's your business, that's your livelihood, that's what you're doing for your family. So know that we're doing the same, right? This is our livelihood. This is what we're doing for our family too. So we get it. It's a huge deal. So thank you guys all for being customers, and thank you guys for attending this webinar. Y'all have a great day.
See you guys.
Thanks.